advertise that I'm doing this live stream. So I thought I'd do something a bit different. Just waiting for a few people to arrive, and we'll get going. Thank you for anyone that does watch today. Hopefully connect with you all. Let you in some funny stories about the time I was in the army. Thought it'd be interesting, it'd be fun one to look back at it all, of stuff I got up to, but also, hello Brummy, how you doing, bud? You all right? Stay tuned, mate. I'll tell you some funny stories about when I was in the army, mate. I only got one person watching at the moment. And you put it on 57 seconds ago. How you been getting on with the scrap today, mate? You been out scrapping? Yeah, it's you, mate. Together we're going to take over the world of YouTube, mate. What do you reckon? You've been scrapping today. I saw you went yesterday. You had a bit of brass, bit of alley, stuff like that. Now, going out at one. Fair play, mate. Yeah, a lot of boys, mate, like with the scrapping, this live stream is going to be about funny stories and not so funny stories that happened to me in the army. So I'm taking a leaf out of your book, but talking about my life. But yeah, before we get started with that, yeah, with the scrap, mate, down here, it's dead as a dodo. I see the boys going around in the tipper trucks, and you know, at best they're like a third full, and you can tell they've been out for like 3-4 hours or whatever. People are getting up earlier and earlier. I mean, I remember one of the last days I went scrapping. It was I'd going about 8 o'clock in the morning, mate. It was nothing, absolutely nothing. Yeah, it'll pick up again, mate. I mean, just because I'm not doing scrap now, doesn't mean I don't still enjoy it and watching people do scrap. And I wish the very best to you, mate. You know, because at the end of the day, we've all got to turn a pound, mate, and we all got to earn some money. So, yeah, yeah. If you ain't got contacts, you're in trouble. Yeah, you're right. You're right, mate. Yeah, street scrapping. I mean, I made a good living off street scrapping. To be fair, I only had a few contacts, but some of the best contacts that I had were the people that did house clearances and stuff like that. What you want to do, mate? Bit of advice to you. What you want to do? Let me move this camera a bit closer. What you want to do is get hold of the house clearance guys, yeah, and the rubbish removal guys, and tell them when they're on a job, give you some notice, and you'll turn up and take all their scrap for them, because a lot of them can't be asked with the scrap, you know, because they've got to clear a whole house out with the rubbish and everything else, and then they've got scrap and this, that, and everything else. And a lot of the guys down there that do rubbish removal are quite happy for me to take scrap. I've had truckloads of scrap off guys that do house clearances and stuff like that. So try that, mate. But anyway, tune in, sit down. I've got a few stories to tell you about my time in the army. So I've touched on it before. When I was 17, I was at college and I wasn't getting on with college. I couldn't do the courses I wanted to do, which was sports science, because I mucked about at school and got a D for science. Yeah, take rubbish to the tip. Yeah, fair play, mate. Yeah. So yeah, I mucked about at science at school, so I couldn't do sports science at college. So I ended up doing like A-level geography, A-level English lit, and I didn't even read the books, mate. Do you know what I mean? Nothing worse than reading a book for me. I just prefer watching TV. So that lasted 6 months. And on the way back from college one day on my motorbike, I stopped in at the Army Recruitment Office. Just walked in there, recruiter's dream, and said, yeah, I want to join the army. Yeah. He goes, what part of the army do you want to join? I went, any part you want, mate. Just want to join the army. That's how much I knew about it. And went in for an interview, got 100 quid off my mum for a suit, took my earring out at the time, went in, and then joined up. 2 weeks later, I started my basic training. So what you found at the army was there's good people in the army, but there's a lot of bullies. All right, and I'm gonna tell you the story of my mate Rolly. He was a northern lad, good lad, nothing wrong with him at all, but he just wasn't what you'd say built like a brick shit house, you know, tough as you like. So a few of these other lads in our basic training, I was only about 17 and a half at the time, honed in on that. And there was a couple of lads in their early 20s who we were in the basic training with. There's about probably 30, 40 of us on the course. And anyway, we're split into three sections. And Rowley was in my section, and he come back and he had a massive red mark on his face there, right? And I said to him, I said, Rowley, what's up, mate? I said, why have you got a red mark on your head? And he goes, oh, this twat from the other sections just pinned me up against the wall and just slapped me in the face. I said, what? He goes, yeah, he slapped me in the face. I said, well, why did he do that? And he goes, well, he just said he didn't fucking like me, so slapped me in the face. So I said, let's go, come with me. All right. So I walked from our section to his section, and you open the door, and that's when everyone's in there with the bed spaces and stuff. So I opened the door with a chair, got another chair, and threw it down the hallway, and all the bed spaces. None of the permanent staff were around, so I could get away with it. I threw this chair down the centre of the corridor, and I said, "Where the f is so and so?" And I saw him. He was sat on his bed. So I went there, gripped him round the neck, got his shirt like this, put him up against the wall, and I said, "Oh, you're a bully boy, huh? You like bullying people, like having it with people, picking on weaker people." I said, "Why don't you try bullying me?" Right? And I was about 4 years younger than I was 17 and a half. He was in his early 20s, right? And the whole of his troop were around me, mate. None of them stepped in because they knew what he did. Now, I didn't punch him or anything like that. I just gripped him. Yeah, just gripped him by his shirt and just pinned him against the wall and made him say sorry to my mate. Yeah, he was of a weak disposition anyway, but he just took it upon himself to bully him. So he said sorry to him, and Rowley was eternally grateful. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out that well for Rowley. He ended up, he didn't pass the basic training because he weren't really cut out for it. But it doesn't mean you can just go around bullying people. Do you know what I mean? So I was proud of myself that day. You know, violence doesn't solve anything, but there's only some languages some people understand. Do you know what I mean? And it just, when I was 17, 18 years old, I was a bit of a hothead. Right? It didn't take much for me to like rear up. But yeah, so I did a good deed that day, and it's not every day you get to do a good deed, is it? So and he contacted me years later on Facebook because he's got like a radio station up north now. He contacted me a few whiles ago, which about 15 years after it happened, saying thank you and all this sort of stuff. So it was really good. It stuck in his brain. So that was basic training. Yeah, it was a good laugh. Everything else got best at physical training. And then I went on to phase 2 training in Blandford, Dorset. So I did my basic training at ATR Bassingbourne. Yeah, and we were there. I joined the Royal Corps of Signals, and there were the Royal Engineers there. There were this, there were that. And I went to ATR Bassingbourne, 11th Signal Regiment, to do my phase 2 training, which was to train up as like a cable engineer, basically doing fibre optics and telephone cables. Anyway, there's one lad there I was bunked up with called Kev Anderson. He's a Scottish guy. Now, when we first started, because there's 12 blokes to a room, yeah. When I first started sharing a room, it used to really annoy me because he'd have this little TV. He used to be able to hire TVs from the TV shop, and it's one big open room, and he's got his TV on blaring like all the time, like blaring really loud, and just trying to chill out. And you say to him, "Look, you turn that TV down," you know, and he'd get gobby with it. So me and him had a bit of a to do, but then after that, we were mates. I basically said to him, "If you don't turn that TV off, mate, I'll smash it on the floor," kind of thing. And he kicked off, but then turned his TV off. But after that, we were mates. So anyway, one night, me and Kev go down the local nightclub in Blandford called G Spot. It's where all the squaddies go, and you know, it's where everyone goes to get absolutely mortal out of their face. So we go in there, and he said, it's the same again. I've always had a soft spot for looking after people that are getting bullied, kind of thing." And he said, "It's this bloke on a course." And Kev weren't a pushover, but he was really annoyed with this bloke. This bloke was a big bloke, and he thought he was 10 men, right? He thought he was double hard. So we walked into this nightclub and he goes, "Oh, I hope I don't bump into this bloke tonight because I don't like him. You know, he's a bit of an idiot. He likes this bird that I was liking, kind of thing." That's what Kev said. So anyway, we walk in the pub, right? Walk in the nightclub. Just got through security, and who do we see? Stood by the fruit machine. This geezer. It's just me and Kev, and there's this geezer stood there with about 5 or 6 of his mates, all drinking, and it's like a scene out of the Wild West, right? We walk in, and I look at Kev, and I'm like looking at him like this. I'm like, oh, here we go. Is that the one giving you grief? He went, yeah. And we'd had a few drinks by then, and you know, violence isn't clever, is it? Do you know what I mean? But at the time, a young lad, you get carried away. So I had a drink, and I was doing a lot of boxing and gymming at the time. As I was training 7 days a week, boxing, weight lift, all of it, mate. You know, proper living the army life. And we walked in and saw this geezer up there, and we literally just had one sip of me pint, threw it up in the air, mate. We started going at it, all of us, and it turned into this massive brawl between me and my mate and his 5 mates. And anyway, he's by the fruit machine. I've lamped one on him. He's gone down to the bottom of the fruit machine, and I'm like laying into him, and he's coming up, and he's just started covering up like that. So I thought, right, he's down. And then one of his mates are having a crack, so I'm having a crack at his mate. But then about 2-3 minutes into the fight, I get picked up, mate. Literally, I get gripped by the back of my jumper and the back of my jeans by 2 of the bouncers. And the bouncers it was an ex Welsh Guard and an ex Marine. And they literally picked me up, threw me out the fire door head first. Okay. And now my mate's still in there and the whole fight's getting split up. But I've been chucked out of this nightclub head first through the fire doors, and so's the main guy and his mate. And there's just me and them 2 stood outside in the car park, all riled up, ready to go. And I've sort of stood up and I squared up to him and he squared up to me, and his mate's there as well. And then they've just gone like, "Oh no, we'll leave it," right? So everyone sort of calmed down. 10 minutes later, we're all back in the nightclub, having a drink and a dance kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So that's what it was like back then. And this was back in 99, 2000. Yeah, I joined in 1999, and by 2000 we're in the nightclub punching out. So yeah, that was my basic training. A couple of stories of basic training, my phase 2. And now I'm going to get on to when I was in Iraq, right? Because there's a few funny stories out in Iraq, mate, I tell you. So I've already mentioned I went into work one day. It was just after the Twin Towers happened. And obviously, UK, being allies with America, said, right, we're going to invade Iraq. Okay. So I turn up to work one day. The commanding officer comes in, stands on the bonnet of the Land Rover, opens up a scroll from GCHQ, and says, right, 28 days, we're all going to Iraq. So you need to say goodbye to loved ones, pack all your kit, make sure all your stocks and that are all done and sorted, because we'll be getting on a flight. Where is it? I can't remember the name. It'll come to me. But the military airbase, Bryce Norton, that's it. RAF Bryce Norton. So we went there. 28 days later, we're in Iraq. So you weren't joking. For a 6-month tour. And we turn up to Iraq, and it's a proper culture shock. Because bearing in mind, you've just been on a plane for hours, right? And you get off the plane, and it's all cool in the plane because of the aircon and stuff. And then you step out of the plane, and it's like this massive wave of heat because it's so hot out there. It's like 45, 50 degrees in the shade, like, do you know what I mean? So bit of a culture shock for all of us. And we got off the plane, get to all the wagons are, all the Land Rovers, all the trailers and all the stuff we're doing and everything else. And start driving from, it must have been Basra Airport or down by a port or something, because that's where the vehicles were. And started driving to a place called Qasr, which is right at the southern part of Iraq, near the border to Kuwait. Okay, so we went down there and then set up a camp. And when I say camp, it's like desert right next to the port, and the perimeter of our camp was shipping containers stacked two or three high, and that made up the whole perimeter of where you were inside, and we were in tents to start with, and that was your camp, and that's where you had all your stuff, all your blocks, where you were living, and everything else. And we started living there. We were in tents, on camp cots, in tents, eating cold rations because the chefs hadn't had all their cooking kit and everything else sorted out by then. So we were just like on cold pilchards and eggs. I thought, oh, mate, it's rank. We got its name. Hey, how you doing, mate? You all right? Cheers for joining. Thank you for everyone who's watching. So we set up there, and for the first month we were out there, it was still a war zone, and then after a month, it turned into peacekeeping. So exactly the same amount of risk, everything else. It's just been declassified from, a war to peacekeeping. So it was a month, it was a war, and then 5 months of peacekeeping. But anyway, what's the first story? It's a heat stroke. I caught heat stroke out there. Oh man! So it's hot all the time. Like I say, it's 50 degrees in shade. I'm talking about Iraq, mate. Yeah, it's the name. I went to Iraq. I was in the Iraq War in 2001, 2002. And it was, like I say, 40, 45 degrees in the shade. And I was doing all right, just necking bottles of water, but your T-shirts were absolutely soaking. You change your T-shirt twice a day kind of thing. But anyway, one of the things we did was we had to take the vehicles, because we had our military Land Rovers, but we had all the civilian vehicles, like brand new Land Rovers and Mitsubishi Shoguns and all this, for the officers, because we had to take the officers to and from the airport. So we needed hire vehicles, and we hired them all from Kuwait. I'll answer that question in a minute, mate. I'm just going to explain the story. But yeah, do you help us sending troops in the long run? Not really, mate. Not really. But anyway, we went down there, and those civilian vehicles that we rented out from Kuwait had to get serviced. Okay, so it was classed as like a day off. Like, you know what I mean? It's closest you got to a day off out there was taking the vehicles to Kuwait to get serviced, because you drop them all off, they get serviced, and then you bum about Kuwait. Now, Iraq, mate, was just like desert and shanty huts and like just bandit country. Do you know what I mean? But as soon as you got into Kuwait, it was perfectly tarmac roads. It was palm trees, looked like Hollywood Boulevard, because obviously all the money's there from the oil. So we've gone down there, but I couldn't, for some reason, because I was off the camp, I couldn't get hold of a bottle of water. And I was in the mindset of, it's a day off, let's just have a beer and this and that. So I'd have a beer, and then I'd have like a can of Fanta, and then I'd have a slush puppy and this and that. And all day, right, I just could not get my hands on a bottle of water. And we're all in civvy clothes, so we're not in military kit. And anyway, on the way back from Kuwait, I said to my mate, pull over. So I got to puke up. So we pulled over and chucked my guts up at the side of the road. And I said, oh, sorry, mate, keep going. And we got back. And just before getting back again, I puked up again. And I got a bottle of water off him. I was trying to drink this water, and it wouldn't stay down. I just kept puking up. Couldn't eat, couldn't drink, kept puking up. Anyway, my mate said to me, oh, let me know if you get any worse, and I'll take you to the med centre. Yeah, he said, I'll take you to the med centre and we'll see you go. I said, oh, I'll be all right, mate. I'll just get my head down. Anyway, that's when that shit hit the fan. Before I say that, let me just answer this comment. When are our leaders going to keep out of our people's hands to help them in the long run? The army would ensure its staff stayed hydrated. Yeah, I know that hydrated bit was on me, really, mate. I was on a day off. That was bad soldiering on my point. But 19 years old in Iraq, what are you going to do? But anyway, back to the story. So he goes, if you get any worse, let me know, and I'll take you to the med centre. So anyway, 20 minutes later, I've woken up, and my hands, right, I've gone from that, my hands have started turning into themselves like that, and I've turned around to my mate, I've gone, Andy. I said, Andy, mate, I'm absolutely done. Yeah? I went, just take me to the med centre, mate. I'm just about conscious at this time, a bit dizzy. My hands have just gone in like that. I can't straighten my hands. So anyway, he took me to the med centre, stripped me off, put me on the bed, and I feel like I'm freezing, but I'm actually burning up because I've got heat stroke. And they're spraying me, and the fans on me, this and that. And anyway, Come 2 o'clock in the morning, they bundle me in the back of a military ambulance over to Shaber Hospital. And that was literally a load of tents set up in the middle of the desert. I woke up 4 days later with a drip hanging out my arm, with the commanding officer over me saying, "Oh, you right, Burrows?" Yeah, I was like, yeah, not bad. Don't know what happened. Been out of it for like 2-3 days. So that was an experience, catching heat stroke during the Iraq War, mate. I tell you, as if there's not enough going on. But anyway, Diarrhea, yeah, definitely. That's what they gave me, a load of Diarrhea when I woke up. And it did turn a boy and a man. It's fair to say I didn't come back the same. Yeah, the body was boiling, mate. And I was at my peak fitness then as well. Like I say, I was gymming, boxing, running, and everything else. So that was one of the stories from Iraq of me nearly dying of bloody heat stroke. You know, dodged every bullet that was out there, but heat stroke, mate, can't get out of the way of the sun. Do you know what I mean? But the funny story, and this is a funny story now, this next bit. So, you know, everyone should have died at your house. You had some mad too. Cheers, brother. Appreciate it. Try my best. Anyway, one of the funny stories out there. So, as well as our duties, so my main job was go around, fix all the telephones, set up a headquarters for the officers with a team of other guys. I was classed as an installation technician, yeah? But you're always a soldier first. So, and, you know, we had to do guard duties. So there would be somebody with a machine gun stood on top of the tower and somebody stood at the bottom with a rifle. Now, this one evening, you know, it was 1 o'clock in the morning, graveyard shift. I'm stood there with a rifle like that. I'm on a I think it's an hour or 2 hours stint, stood there at the camp gate. And the camp gate is just a gap between the shipping containers with concrete blocks staggered for about 100 meters going up to the gate, so nobody can just drive the cars right out here. And I was on the rifle, and this girl, she was on the machine gun, right? And anyway, we stood there just having a chat, talking to her, this, that, and everything else, basically thumb up your ass like nothing's going on. And anyway, 100 meters away, this orange and white taxi pulls up, okay? All battered taxi. I think the local taxis out there were orange and white. And it pulled up. I could just about see it. It was about 120 meters away, something like that. I looked at it and went, "Oh, what's that?" Didn't think much of it. You know, 19-year-old lad, 20-year-old lad, 19, didn't really have much of a clue, really. He's learning on the job. Anyway, they turn up and I hear pop, pop, like that, pop, pop, and then the car's turned away and driven off. And this is how naive I am. I've gone, "Oh, yeah, there's a dodgy exhaust on that car. It's backfired." That taxi's knackered, has backfired. You hear its exhaust. And I didn't get a reply. And I looked up at the girl, and she's on the phone. She's going on the field phone. I said, "Well, what are you doing? What's up? What's up? What's up?" She goes, "You've just been shot at." I said, "Have I? Where?" I said, "Where have I been shot?" Because back then we had a bulletproof vest on, yeah, but they didn't even give us the metal plates to put in the bulletproof vest. So it was basically like one of them body warmers. Anyway, she said, I said, "Who are you calling?" She goes, "I'm calling the QRF, yeah, Quick Reaction Force." So she's called the Quick Reaction Force, which is all the infantry. And literally, I'm not joking, 3 minutes later from her phone call, a Land Rover's come out of the camp with a machine gun attached to the roof of it, with about 8 lads in it to seek and destroy this taxi man. They've gone down out the camp, gone, so which way did it go? That way, gone straight out there to seek and destroy this taxi. And yeah, basically turned out that they tried shooting us, tried shooting me, and tried shooting the girl up on the guard at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, something like that. So that was pretty mad, but it was like funny at the same time. Anyway, let me answer a few of these comments. Oh, we should have Dynamite in the house. Yeah, you're right. No one's going to dodge what's coming from. Yeah, you're right, mate. You know, can't escape death. What's your take on all of this Middle East situation now? I think it's sad, really. You know, I think it's sad. People getting bombed and families getting destroyed and all legacies of places getting destroyed, this and that. for religious purposes, whatever it is, religious purposes, difference of opinions, this and that, control, power, greed, whatever it is. I think it's just sad, and I feel sorry for everyone who's affected, and especially the little kids out there that haven't got a clue. Yeah, they just haven't got a clue what's going on. And I mean, you imagine being a kid and seeing your family blown up and your house blown up and your street blown up, and that it's gonna scar you for the rest of your life. So yeah, that's my opinions on it. Yeah, not going to get into it with politics and stuff like that because I'm no expert on it. But I just pray that everyone that's involved is okay. So anyway, back to the stories. Thanks for commenting, my mate. So yeah, heat shot the gun tower, driving. What was that? Yeah, and karaoke competition. So one of the things the permanent staff did is to keep morale up because obviously when you're on a base with the officers, they get all the privileges, they get the better food, they get this, they get that. And one of the things they did to keep morale up was have a karaoke competition in the middle of the camp, like once a week, because they had like a makeshift bar up where they buy the beer and stuff like that. Yeah, and they set up a makeshift bar in the middle of the camp for all the officers. Now we'd have a karaoke competition. Anyway, I entered it, and it was called Port Stars, like Britain's Got Talent. It was called Port Stars, and we got into it. And anyway, I got to the final because I was a bit of a singer, but I was a private, and the person who was in the final with me was a female officer, so she's my boss. And it come down to the votes, right? And everyone had to vote for who they thought won the competition. And I'll never forget, I looked over at who was doing the counting of the votes, and it was a staff sergeant of the MT, right, in charge of all the vehicles, and he absolutely hated me, mate. Always stuck the knife in wherever he could. And guess who he was counting the votes, wasn't he? Not to say she weren't a good singer, but he was counting the votes, and guess who won? She won. But there we go. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at some of these comments. Okay, our prayers and presses are held to account. Yes, me too, my brother. You sang Celine Dion. Nah, mate. I started off my singing karaoke career singing Elton John. Yeah, I always liked Elton John for some reason, but that was it. So yeah, that was a bit about my time in Iraq, and I tell you now what happens. Like, because a lot of people say, oh, "What happens if you don't do as you're told in the army or you muck up?" So I'll tell you a little story. Nothing major, but anyway, I was on driver duty. Yeah, I'm still standing. Yeah, so I was on driving duty, right? And I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to pick this girl up from the Adjutant General Corps and drop her off to Brize Norton so she can catch a plane to go to like Iraq or something. And I went to Kip and I set my alarm on my phone. And my alarm didn't go off, right? And I woke up at 6 o'clock, right? So by that time, I'm already done, mate. I'm already in the shit. My alarm hasn't gone off. Everything else, I've gone absolutely berserko. I've gone down to the camp and I've tried blagging it like the staff sergeant. He said, "Oh, why don't you turn up at this time? Blah 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 blah." I said, "Oh, my car broke down. My car broke down. Yeah. I had to call the AA." And first thing he said, because this is a staff sergeant that hated me, he goes, "Oh, you broke down with the AA." He goes, "Yeah, where's your yellow slip?" I said, "What?" I said, "He didn't give me a yellow slip," and I obviously do. I've never broken down with the AA at that point, so I didn't know nothing about it. So he saw right through the blag, right? And anyway, got an absolute rollicking, and then they charged me. And what happens is you get in trouble, they charge you, right, where they take away privileges and they take away some of your money. So it took some money away from me, and I went on something called ROPs, restriction of privileges. And they had me painting up boxes on a Friday night and a Saturday night when everyone else was out getting on the drink. I was there, but I didn't care, mate, because nobody else wanted to be there to look over me. I was left there by myself. So I just brought my stereo down, pumped the music out like as loud as I could, just having a laugh. Like, do you know what I mean? Hardly doing any work, but that's what it's like when you don't do your chair. Everyone's quick to charge you, put you in front of the commanding officer. Yeah, get him charged. Yeah, let's have a dig at him, this, that, and everything else. So, yeah. That's why I ended up eventually leaving. But I've got a few more stories about the army as well. So let's have a look at some of these comments. Can I ask, what do you do for work now? Well, for work now, I'm actually retired. When I left the army in 2008, I've been self-employed for the last 17 years. I've been a singer, a guitar player, DJ, had an ice cream business, had ice cream vans and drivers working for me selling ice cream, scrap man, did a couple of delivery driver jobs for a short stint, this and that. But yeah, now I'm retired, and now what I'm doing for work is my YouTube and starting up my new car boot business and buying and selling, reselling, and all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm doing. But anyway, this video is about my time in the army. So appreciate the comments, but I'm going to crack on with the army stories, all right? Thank you for saying they're cool. So anyway, I was after I come back from Iraq with the working unit. Cheers, buddy. Appreciate it. After I came back from Iraq, I said, "Nah, I ain't doing that again. I ain't going back out on operational tour, mate. That's not for me." Like, so I said, "Right, what else do I fancy doing within the army? Because within the army, you can do loads of different things." So I loved riding motorbikes, yeah. And there was a team in the army called the White Helmets, and you can only join it if you're in the Royal Signals. So I tried out for it. As soon as I came back from Iraq, came back from a 6-month tour in Iraq on a Friday, and then started a 2-week White Helmets course on the Monday. When everyone else was on R&R, rest and recuperation, right? So I went there, got into the White Helmets team, did my 2 weeks fitness test, riding a bike. Really good fun, like going over Bobbitt Tank Range and just ragging bikes, seeing if you can stay on them, basically. And join the White Helmets. Now, for those of you that don't know what the White Helmets are, if you type the White Helmets in on YouTube, you'll see, like, when everyone's obviously got white helmets on, riding old Triumph Tiger motorbikes, and we do tricks and we jump through fire and we ride quads and jump over cars and all this stuff in an arena-based setting. And people would book us, and we get paid our military wage from the army, but the whole running cost of the team had to come from sponsorships and people who booked us to do shows. So I was in that for about 2.5, 3 years. I've got a few stories. Right, so let me have a sip before I say this one, because, mate, I tell you. So the funniest man, right, there's a lot of funny people in the army, but the funniest person I ever met in the army was a guy we called Dicko, and a lot of the lads used to call him Pig Eyes just to annoy him because he hated being called Pig Eyes. But Dicko is his name. He's from Oldham. He's a northern lad. He's from Oldham. The funniest geezer I've ever met. I was really good mates with him. Funniest geezer I've ever met in my life. And I'm going to talk about Dicko for the main story. One of the funniest things he ever did. So anyway, my mate Dicko, he had the potential to be a really, really good soldier. Probably make it all the way through the ranking system. He was really good, switched on, a clever bloke, a smart, clever bloke. But he was, when he had a drink, he was a liability and a little bit immature, like a lot of us could be at times. But he was so funny with it, right? So anyway, when we were with the White Helmets, we drove up to Liverpool in the team coach and the lorry for the motorbikes. And we got on the ferry from Liverpool over to Ireland, because we were doing this really posh show in Ireland. So we went over to Ireland, and it was this big, honestly, it looked like a mansion or a castle with a big field in front of it with like flames, flame torches up the side, and we're doing the show. Thank you, buddy. Yeah, I appreciate that, being a teacher. But I have to teach myself first, mate. But anyway, we're on the ferry, right, and we're allowed to do what we want. So we're all on the ferry and we're all having a drink, but Dicko thinks it would be a good idea to have about 3-4 cans of Stella before he goes up there, neck about 4 or 5 pints on the ferry, and have a couple more beers when we get on the coach. And let me tell you, he couldn't hold his drink. Right, after about 2 or 3 pints, he was really quick to get to that giggly stage. And anyway, he got absolutely paralytic, mate. Absolutely smashed out of his head. And we all got on the team coach, and they all try to push him towards the back of the team coach, like, so he don't get in trouble with the officers, like the sergeants that don't see him, trying to keep him under wraps. But it's so funny because he's shouting, he's singing, he's funniest lad you ever meet, mate. Anyway, it all came to a head because the team coach, we pulled up at the accommodation, and the lorry pulled up, and the coach pulled up, and the captain goes, right, I want everyone on the square for a team briefing, right? So we're all coming off the coach. Captain stood there. We're all sort of stood round him in a semicircle. And they go, is everyone here? And everyone there. They go, where's Dicko? Right. And I'm laughing already because I know. They go, where's Dicko? Oh, he's on the coach. We'll go and get him. Right? Because they don't know. He's pissed. They don't know he's absolutely paralytic. So anyway, one of the lads goes and gets him. And we're stood round the corner from the lorry. And we're all stood there quiet. And all you see and all you hear is like in slow motion. It's so funny. We turn around like that. And all you see is Dicko come around the corner, rips off his shirt. So he's bare chested, right? Rips off his shirt, absolutely paralytic. And goes, right in front of the team captain, and he just collapses on the floor. In front of the team captain, goes like that, just collapses square in front of the floor. We're all pissing ourselves, fucking laughing. But the team captain's trying to be deadly serious, and there's like disorder in the ranks kind of thing. But he was so funny, mate. He was such a funny guy. And then for the rest of the night, he was completely smashed out of his head as well. And we were just having a laugh. He's like kicking off, not kicking off. But he was the funniest guy. I think his name's Ian Dickinson. I don't know. I think that's his name because I spoke to him in years. Dicko, if you're watching or anyone knows Dicko from older, tell him Justin says hello, who used to be in the army with, because he was a good lad. Another time as well, he got pissed up and he fell asleep. And the worst thing you can do in the army is if you get pissed up, fall asleep, because you're going to wake up with someone writing stuff on your head or whatever. And he woke up and a load of the lads got some of that Veet cream. You know that Veet cream, that hair removal cream? They got a load of Veet, put it on his eyebrows, and they put a load of Veet on it. He had a skinhead, right? He had like a grade 2 on his head, and they put a load of Veet on his head, right? And he woke up, and he's only supposed to leave it on a few minutes, isn't you? But they left it on him all night. So he's woke up, his eyebrows are completely gone, but where it's like burning into his skin, it's all red and inflamed like this. And we turn up for a team briefing in the morning. And his whole face is bald. And top of his hair is all bald as well. So if you ever join the army, don't fall asleep once you've been on the drink, because people will do stuff to you. It's just how it is. But yeah, so that was a bit about the white helmets. Let me just have a look. I've written a list of these stories because my memory is terrible. Tarun Padita, you looks good, dear. Thank you very much. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, that was it. So that was a funny story in the army, okay? Oh no, this story, mate, this is absolutely shocking. And a guy had to leave the army from this story. Is my good mate at the time called Fitz, just call him Fitzy. So we're in the white helmets, okay? And we're up north. Where is it? Somewhere in Cheshire, I think, something like that. There was an RAF base, CM or something, RAF CM, something like that. I can't remember. Chester, I think. And we're all practicing our tricks. So for 6 to 8 weeks out of the year, before the show season starts, we all go up, stay in this other camp, and we learn all the tricks. So we've got to teach people, learn how to wheelie, teach people how to wheelie, do tricks, so we can put a show together with the new recruits coming in, the old recruits coming out. Anyway, and this isn't funny at all. This is like a serious like story, and I feel for it, man, because I've witnessed it. So we were doing the big trick where you got the pyramids. You've got 6 bikes on the bottom. You've got 5 people standing in, then 4, then 3, then 2, then 1 at the top. So it's a big triangle like that as the 6 bikes are driving around. Okay. And anyway, Fitzy, say there's 8 bikes. Fitzy was this rider in the middle. Okay. Now when you're the rider in the middle, everyone who stood on top of you, the weight's all coming in. Okay. So we're riding around the field and we're keeping the pace. And I think Fitzy, he wound on a bit too fast, yeah? So if you imagine it, so you've got 4 bikes, they're all trying to stay in a line, and Fitzy's gone too fast, so he's going forward. So people are going to fall off. So what he's done, he's gone forward a bit too fast, and he's overcompensated by winding down the throttle. And as he overcompensated, winding down the throttle, he went from going forward to back really fast. And what happened is the whole diamond, the whole triangle fell on top of him. Okay, so everyone collapsed because we're all practicing to do it. Everyone collapsed, all the riders are down there, everyone's on top of everyone, like absolute carnage, right? And anyway, we all get up and all you can hear is shouting like this, yeah. Fitzy, who was riding his bike, has got knocked off his bike. His arm has gone through the rear wheel, right? It's gone through the rear wheel, and you know where the chain is and the crank's gone there, and it's got his arm stuck in the crank, and it's cut through his whole hand here. There's only a little bit hanging on, little tiny bit here hanging on. And he's like, get it out, get it out, get it out. And there's blood everywhere. Everyone was told to go that way, and the senior team members were dealing with it, and they're there with the spanners, and they called the air ambulance or something in, and they're there with the spanners, getting this rear wheel off, and getting the chain off and everything, and trying to hold his hand up like this, because it's basically his hand's been cut off from the crank and the chain. And they've done this. His arms got cut, and they put him in the ambulance, took him away. And the poor guy's had surgery and everything else, and he's come back and his hand's like that permanently. And they said, do you want to have it amputated or this way? He went, no, I'll keep it. I'll keep my hand like it is. Anyway, because he couldn't perform his duties, I think he got given the choice whether to leave or stay in the army. And he left with a war pension, and 6 months to a year later, mate, he was out of the army. But that just shows you how bad it can be, yeah, how bad things can go when you think it's just having a good time and a good laugh, but all it takes is a split second, you know, somebody's losing their arm, this, that, or anything else, and it changes their whole life. Next one. So in the white helmets, we had, remember Ant and Dec Saturday night takeaway? Well, that had just started. It only been on a couple of years. And one of Ant and Dec's challenges was to come to the white helmets, jump through fire on a motorbike, and see who did the best. So we had Ant and Dec with us, and we're there, and I'm warming them up because I was team PTI, I was putting them through their paces, and then the team were teaching them how to ride a motorbike over a ramp through fire. Okay, so they trained well, and they're told when you go up the ramp, okay, go to second gear or third gear, second gear, don't rev it, don't pull back, don't roll off, just go up nice and flat, just go, keep your speed and jump, and you want to really have the back wheel landing first and then the front, okay? So they've been doing this training all week and they've done really well. Anyway, Ant does it, yeah? He goes through, he's in the blue levers, I think, and Dec's in the red levers, and Ant goes through the thing, not really a great jump, but he completes the jump, okay? He goes through, completes the jump. And I was the guy at the back of the bike holding the flame that lit the hay through the jump. So if you ever see Ant and Dec on YouTube and you see them jump through the fire, I was the guy sat on the back of the motorbike holding the torch flame, lighting the hay, right? So Dec jumps through, he's fine. Ant goes through, he goes, wah, 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 goes up to the end of the ramp, bottles it and goes, vroom, rolls off the accelerator. Because he's rolled off the accelerator, the bike's gone forward as he's coming off the ramp. So he's coming off the ramp, he's rolled off, and it's gone vroom, nose first. And he's landed front wheel first, 90 degrees, gone bam, like that, and it crashed the bike. There's fire and all this, mate. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you just killed Dec. Do you know what I mean? And he's turned out, he's fractured all his scaphoid and his bone and this and that. I thought, Jesus Christ, it was another one. Do you know what I mean? So it's really easy to get injured. And you see him on the shows. If you type in YouTube at Saturday Night Takeaway White Helmets, you'll see it. You'll see the jump that he did and how he hurt himself. But Jesus Christ, mate, it was good because that team, right? It was the best part about the army, I think, because that team, it was basically just do your show, perform to people when it was classed as a recruiting tool. So you're recruiting people by showing them what they can do in the army, yeah? But it was basically a piss up every night you're on the road and then just ragging around on bikes all day. So it was the best thing I ever did in the army. After that, I joined the gym. I become a physical training instructor, teaching um, the recruits all the physical education and stuff, putting them through their paces and their tests and everything. And then I decided to leave. And before I left the army, so I'd done about 7, 8 years at this time. Before I left the army, I built up a music business. I started singing, playing guitar at the pubs, started building up a business, charging people £100 a gig. I go to the pubs, play music, this, that, and everything else, yeah. And then I started doing DJ and disco, and I built that business up alongside whilst I was in the army. So when I left the army, I went straight out into being self-employed. And then from the day I left the army, mate, bar a couple of delivery driving jobs for a couple of months, I've been self-employed the last 17 years and now I'm retired. But anyway, guys, I'm going to give you an opportunity to text anything you want now for the next couple of minutes. Hope you enjoyed that. Got the inspiration to talk about these stories from Brummy Banters. So Brummy Banters, thanks for taking part again, mate. You talk about stories in your life, so I'm going to talk a bit about mine, you know, because I've had a lot of stuff go on. But yeah, thanks for the inspiration, my mate. Hope everyone's enjoyed that. That'll be the video for today. Thank you for everyone who's watching. Look out for our next videos. I'll either be doing a live and it'll be saved as a live, so if you've missed it, you can catch up by watching it, or I'll be doing an edited video. So take care, everyone. Hope you're all well. Wish you nothing but the best, and I will see you next time. Take care and bye.